the 12-step program for beginners.
I don't like the look of the word God or prayer and meditation in the 12 steps. I'm not a religious person. I don't want to get dragged into a cult or finish up in church.
I have no religious belief, but I did write a book of daily prayers for atheists and agnostics.
That's weird.
Actually, it was rather fun, thinking of the personal qualities I would like to have in my life. I use prayer and meditation as psychological and behavioral reminders.
You're off the planet.
I live comfortably in the practical world of doctors, accountants, lawyers, and politicians. I also live comfortably in the spiritual world of poets, musicians, artists, and actors.
Is that okay in 12-step program?
Very much so. Every time the word God is mentioned, it's followed by "as you understand him." And there's a chapter in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous entitled "We Agnostics." They're on the inside.
I'll have to think about that. Where shall I start?
I recommend you to start on what I call Step 0, listing all the things you're good at. I think it's important for you to see that we are good people, but bad drinkers.
I think I'm a bad person, but a good drinker. I can drink anyone under the table.
Yes, I'm sure you can, because you're in such good practice. The purpose of working the steps is to use them as a medicine. They are the specific treatment for what I call neurotransmission disease, which covers all forms of addiction.
I want to learn how to drink sensibly.
If you really are an alcoholic, and that's for you, not anyone else to decide, you won't be able to stop on your own. That's why we need what we call a higher power than self. The whole purpose of working the steps as soon as we can is to reverse our decline as soon as possible and never relapse.
That sounds like a life sentence.
Alcoholism is a life sentence. The 12 steps, taken in part each day, help us to live the lives we can have by choice, not the lives we were destined to have through our genetic inheritance.
So, how long do I have to work the steps?
For life, one day at a time. Our illness, like many others, doesn't take a day off, nor can we. Nowadays, I've got the life I could only dream about before I got into recovery.
Recovery? There's so much jargon.
Yes, there is a bit, but you'll get used to it. Even the word fellowship won't unsettle you after a time.
It's brainwashing.
By the time I came to work the 12-step program, my brain needed a good wash. I had so much of what AA calls stinking thinking. My brain sometimes told me lies, but the difficulty was that I didn't know when.
Yeah, got you.
Okay, let's look at the steps. In step 1, we see how alcohol, or any other mood-altering substance and process, rules our lives and makes them disorganized. The footprint of our addictive disease stamps all over our lives.
Yeah, I'm in trouble at home and at work and socially and financially.
We need to work step 1 fearlessly and thoroughly from the very start, exactly as it says in the big book of AA.
Jargon again.
Step 1 brings up a grief reaction, just as if we'd been bereaved. It takes 2 years to go through the phases of denial, then anger, then sadness, then negotiation, and finally, usually after 2 years, but sometimes longer if people get stuck in any of the phases for a time, acceptance.
That's hard graft.
Working the 12 steps and reaching out to help other addicts anonymously is the substitute mood-altering process that works.
Yet again, this is so much like hard work.
Do you want to save your life or not? Or would you like a living death on antidepressants?
Yes to the first question, no to the second.
Then, in step 2, you'll need a higher power than self. Your own willpower and determination won't be enough. Some people's God is good, orderly direction. Others use group of drunks. Find your own. But your higher power has to have the capacity to be effective, not simply be the tree at the bottom of the garden. And it has to be sensible, not a tribe that worships cannabis.
You're taking all the fun out of life.
No, I'm showing you how to get it and keep it. In step 3, you hand your will and your life over to the care of that higher power. Handing over your life, not knowing what fate might decree, is simple. Handing over your will, getting out of the driving seat and developing a sense of trust, is difficult.
I'm not doing that. No way.
Then stay as you are. Has your way worked?
No.
Then stop mucking about. I find it difficult to have faith in the future, but when I look back at my life, it's almost as if I've been guided. Nowadays, I make sensible plans for the future, but I don't try to force the outcome.
Surely I have to make things happen. They won't happen on their own. My experience is that when one door closes, another door closes as well.
Yep, that's the way it is sometimes. But keep moving forward. Step 4 is taking a full and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. People often see it as a fearful, immoral inventory and get frightened off. They do what I call the fellowship waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but never move on to step 4. By the way, the other fellowship dance is the 2-step. As soon as we get into recovery in step 1, we want to get our mothers into recovery in our step 12. But if you do step 4 correctly, you should list all your good values and behavior as well as the bad.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Yes, if you want to get well. People sometimes think that talking about addictive disease is a cop-out. It lets us off the hook. Working the 12 steps is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Go on, tell me it gets worse.
Yes, it does. In step 5, we have to tell someone absolutely truthfully all the things we've done wrong.
Jesus.
Yes, tell him as well, if that's your belief. And the advantage of doing a really thorough step 4 is that it provides a firm base for step 6, becoming entirely ready to be rid of your defects of character, not hanging on to anything. And then in step 7, you have to ask God to remove all your shortcomings for once and for all. Step 6 and 7 are the central spiritual steps of the entire program. They took me a couple of years, but the reward was immense. They changed my life.
Why do we have to bring God into it?
To keep us honest. We're brilliant at fudging things and rationalizing things and pretending things and all the rest of it.
Well, I'm not sure I've got that big a problem.
Would your wife agree with that?
Well, maybe not.
In step 8, we make a list of all those we have harmed. And in step 9, we make direct amends, admitting what we've done, saying sorry, and offering to take action to square the account with each person.
But I don't know where some of those people are.
Imagine that each one owes you 10 grand. You'll find them. And if you do this step painstakingly well, without carelessly making things worse, a whole set of lovely promises, spelled out in the big book, will come true. Those of us who have done it, meticulously, have found it magical.
Do you take your halo off at night?
You're on form today. No, I don't. My wife won't let me wear it at all. In step 10, which I write down in simple notes every night, I keep an account of daily things that I've done kindly or stupidly, and of the people I affected by those actions.
Why would you write it down?
So that I can see any developing patterns. Then in step 11, I pray and meditate each day.
Really? On your knees? You, an atheist?
Yes, why not? It's a gesture of acknowledgement that I'm not running the universe.
I still don't like the idea of a higher power.
Do you do your own accounts or your own plumbing?
No.
That means that your accountant and your plumber are higher powers than you in material things. God, in whatever way you imagine him or her or whatever, is a higher power in spiritual things.
I'm still not sure what those are.
Your ethics, values and principles in life. You'll come face to face with them in step 12, when you apply the principles of honesty and open-mindedness and willingness in everything you do.
Even with the taxman?
Yes, even then. And finally, we try to reach out to help other addicts who are still in it right up to their necks.
I don't mind doing that. I think I'd make quite a good counsellor, really.
Hang on a minute. Counselling is, or should be, a highly skilled profession. At your stage, I would recommend you to get a sponsor, a guide, to see you through the steps. Also, you'll find it helpful if you read the literature of the fellowships and do some form of service, such as putting out the chairs in a meeting or doing the washing up afterwards.
Why do we need to go to meetings at all? Can't we just sign the pledge?
We go to meetings to meet other people like us. That counters our denial. Also, meetings give us the recurring opportunity to help newcomers to settle in. There's a high suicide rate in alcoholics who stop going to AA meetings and stop working the steps. Our illness, like many other chronic illnesses, never goes away. But the really good thing, unlike other chronic illnesses, is that there's absolutely no sign of our illness if we continue to work the steps. We use them as a bridge to normal living. You can start right now in steps 10, 11 and 12, if you like. They're called the maintenance steps, but it won't hurt you to get into the habit of working them each day right now. In summary, trust God, clean house and help others. And then we can be the people we most want to be, happy, joyous and free.
I'll try.
Don't try, just do it.